You know, I was telling a story yesterday. I was deep into Texas, into a town that was predominantly Mexican, and there's a lot of Catholicism there, of course. And so I postered the town, and I ran ads in the newspapers, and I took a little crew with me. And so when we got to the meeting place and went in, there was no one in there. At least that's what my crew thought. You have to realize that there's a lot of disembodied beings that are anxious to learn the truth, but their physical bodies in one way or another can't afford them that, or even their emotional bodies. So we are joined this morning with a great amount of souls in here and some spiritual masters. See if you can see them and who they are. You know, this health thing, I was trying to figure out how to bring this higher level of awareness to humans. Because when you go into the front door, I've given thousands and thousands and thousands of dissertations and classes on spirituality. Back in the day, I had so much to say it wasn't even funny. I just don't have a lot to say anymore because it's just, anytime you engage the mind, you've limited yourself. Unless you've learned how to engage the mind and not lose your consciousness or your awareness following that mind. And I've been weaving this all through this week. So you will know and help to open you up and pull you back to consciousness, to awareness. Because it is just like health. It is simplistic. But as duality dictates, it just appears to be complex. But when you realize you are the source, just manifesting in individual form, and when you truly get that, then you will have God consciousness. And the only way to understand that is not through the mind, is through being it. That's how you navigate from consciousness into creation, is you become that which you create. You can see that when you go into a movie house and you're watching a movie that the director was really good. He will make that movie so good that you will forget who you are sitting there in the movie house watching the movie. Yeah. And then, oh, I'm in a movie house. That's how good the movies are. And you're creating your own movie. Not so much consciously, of course. You know, I've always said there's so much you can become aware of and be and do in the God worlds. You can be way showers. You can be the creative dreamer yourself. Think about how you could expand your world. If you could create endless forms and teach those forms to be self-creating, conscious creators, you could create endless universes, endless worlds. And that's what's going on. Each and every one of you, your experience is a feedback to the whole. That's why creation exists. It has really no validity whatsoever other than that, as far as I know. Because it's here today and gone tomorrow. Look how fast this seminar went. And we were just saying, 2 weeks to the class, 1 week to the class. And the next thing you know, class is over. So I want you to try to go back and maintain that consciousness of beingness. Carry that power that you are generating through your hues and stuff with you and touch others with it. Keep it simple. We live in a world of extreme judgment. Man judges so much. It's unbelievable. And you don't want to fall into that. Who cares what the other individual's journey is and what they're doing? You know, you have to realize that one little thin body there called the etheric or the ego. The ego is essential for your individualization. But get that baby going and, you know, it can put you as the king. And each and every one of you is the king and queen. You know, that brings up a point, is that you realize that consciousness is non-gendered, right? Somebody called me a sexist or something way back when. I'm going, what? Man is so sensitive on words. You know, and we each are brought up in different locales and stuff, so we have different way of articulating what we see, you know. But you can't judge. As soon as you judge somebody, somebody's judging you. And you're just living in that. You're just moving and breathing with creation. Anything comes up, you're trying to respond to that from your past experiences, from your awareness. Your response to anything is cause and effect, right? Just like health. And you don't want to constantly be the effect of things. You want to get away from duality and consciousness. Some on this planet think you can in the physical. No. These rooms in the mansion are set. And they're set for a reason. It sends itself through these journeys, awakens itself, expands itself. And each and every one of you are a part of that in both ways, of learning to expand yourself and helping others to expand as well. So you always want to try to be in that eternal moment, because that's when you get those messages. That's when you communicate with the divine more and more and more, because you're becoming the divine. It will guide you to that which you need to do. Why are you here? What's your journey anyway? And I decided way back when, you can't always open the door front ways. Religion has such a stranglehold on man, it's not even funny. And you see people killing people in the name of that. First it was the Christians, and then it's the Islamic faiths and stuff like this. It's not one particular group, but these are states of consciousness that we're trying to bring up a little bit. But this is the best way for you as light givers or light beings to work with your friends in helping them to expand and become awake. Health is where man's suffering so much that I realized that's the backdoor way to get him to God awareness. Because as soon as you go on a raw food diet, you start expanding. It's an energetic experience. And remember, energy is consciousness. So the more that you can channel, or the more that you can become it, that's awareness. You know, there's a lot said about out-of-body travels. It is a fun thing, no question. There's a point, though, when you're a traveler that you have to realize that the gig is always about the traveler, not the traveling. There's a lot of incredible places to visit in the worlds of God, especially when you're coming out of this and you forgot some of the places you've been. There's some incredible places. We were talking about the mental worlds, and the buildings and structures go up through the clouds. Twitchell talks a great lot about that. Sometimes it's helpful to read some of the master's works. like the tiger's fang or the key to secret worlds, learning these worlds so that you'll have some degree of awareness that these worlds exist within you. But if you look at your own individual psychic, you will find all these components to you. You're here talking in an embodied body. Some are not. But you do have a body to be here. And the astral body can be here. Matter of fact, all bodies are simultaneously wrapped around here in actuality. Traveling is an illusion. But it can be fun. Consciousness is intense, extremely intense. So that's why you want to play a little bit. That's why creation exists also, I think, is to play a little bit, because consciousness is intense. There's no positive, there's no negative, there's no male, there's no female. It just is. It's intense awareness, it's intense energy, it's intense, I don't know what all you can say about it. All knowledge, all wisdom, all things exist within that now, within that consciousness. So to experience it, you must drop all things. It's not going to come to you. It already is you. All these people think God is going to come and it's already here. Man chooses not to look and see. It's already wrapped around each and every one of you. And this is why you're opening up. And the fruits and all this helps you to do that, doesn't it? It's incredible. It's hard not to open up on a raw food diet. And you start to see those that thought they weren't spiritual opening themselves up. Because for me, spirituality is just awakening. We can write volumes in intellectualism about the process of awakening. You know, there's the thing called initiations and all kinds of things, depending upon the order from which you are working. Some spiritual giants will use initiations and different, just like being baptized. These are just things that, like baptism, you kind of going through the physical move of that. Not too many people are really into the consciousness of that. Initiations is a whole different story. If you have a spiritual guide, you're going to find, if he doesn't talk to you, you're going to find yourself moving through cycles. And to survive these cycles, you must be willing to let go always the experience that's coming to you. And we've been talking about that this week as an emotional detox. This is an astral detox. You're going to want to let go what you see. Or you're going to keep carrying that around. As long as you carry it around, you will never be free. So you don't want to carry around thoughts and ideas and past experiences and all that. It's already being recorded. And you could visit that in the Akashic Records, causal world. Your orange plane. But that's just your journey in creation. It isn't who you are. The intensity to know who you are will pull you deep into the state of aloneness. Because each and every one of them, as you lose your bodies, you become more the one, not less. And therefore it becomes more intense, more intense, more intense, more nirvanic. It's so intense from this position, from a position of individuality and extreme confinement. And that's how I view the physical body, extreme confinement. But if you forget who you are and all this, then you can have fun in the physical a little bit, but you're still bouncing back between positive and negative. After a while, you don't want that anymore. You want to have more purity and love. Just like the demonstration before I got here was incredible. Using words to vibrationally pull you into these different realms are important. Through your daily life, I used to chant the hue to myself all the time. Now you must become the hue. You must become meditation. It isn't something you do. It is something you are. All these things are designed to set you free, to open you up, and to expand your ability to express yourself. If you keep on your own journeys, that's fine, but you want, to me, greater journeys. There will always be souls coming to this level. The karma being created at this plane is amazing. And all these individuals will have to keep working this off on some level here in this physical world. And you could spin for quite a while. Quite a while. Some of you already have. Some of the things that we were told was some of the souls here are locked here and we're to help open them up. And you can lock yourselves here for quite a while. That's why you don't want to judge. You want to let go. Who cares? You be the divine, giving wisdom to those that seek it. You're finding you don't need to be the seeker anymore. Move from the seeker to the knower. Because you are the knower. Sometimes you just don't know it. My side of this is always the now. I don't put any attention on traveling anymore because your survival is not the traveler. Your survival is wakening up, being the all of the all. And then you can work in other universes and go places where other areas are stagnant and help to open those areas up. Because the pendulum at this level swings pretty far both sides. And it sends its troops in when it gets to the point of getting too much. It's just how it keeps a saturation or a certain, tries to keep itself within certain boundaries because the negative forces are extremely destructive. As beautiful as you can imagine, which is unreal. When you start looking above, seeing the colors and the dance, I call it, of the divine, it's amazing. But you also have the negative, the dark. I remember that it was Tom Cruise. It was a movie, I can't even remember the name of it, but it had a unicorn in it. And it had the negative being the cow, whatever you want to call the negative force, the channel for that. And the cow the negative force wanted to grab the unicorn because that was life, right? That was the essence. It represented the flow and the current. And he wanted to get this young, beautiful little girl because she was the princess of life. And so he had all the gnomes, all the negative beings grab her and the unicorn and took her away. And then I guess Tom Cruise was like the savior, the young lad that goes forth and saves the kingdom. So he got all the good little fellas and fairies of life to come help him go conquer the evil one. And as he was conquering the evil one, he cast the evil one out into the universe. And as the evil one was moving out into the universe, he said, "Father, you have forsaken me." The negative looks for the succor as well as the positive. The negative feels it's a channel for God as the positive, which it is. You must understand that. You're not here to crush the negative forces. You can't. But they're strong in your lives. And your mind represents that factor. So, just like you don't like a neighbor or you don't like someone that comes up to you the same way. If you open yourself up too much, you do have to be careful. There's a lot of disembodied beings that would love to attach themselves to you, and do. Some of you have walk-ins currently. And they can be very, very subtle. Don't even know you have a hitchhiker. And some of these hitchhikers are non-physical, of course. Man doesn't understand that yet. That there's another war going on here that's not Homo sapien against Homo sapien. Some of you get that. Strength is always your path. Consciousness is always your path. I was dating a girl one time, a lot of depression. And I was sitting one time in a restaurant with some people, and I saw this entity attacking her. The next thing I know, this light came out of my tisratil and attacked the being. I didn't know I had that ability at the time. You have more abilities than you can even imagine. Cool stuff. But you can protect yourself. Knowingness and strength, know, is a good way to do it. You don't allow the negative forces or someone or an entity to bother you. You don't fear. Fear is a doorway into you. You see all these shows where they're looking for all these, going to these haunted places. You see those, I don't know, on some of these cable channels where they have all these, I don't know, they're sci-fi stuff and all of that. It's like, you don't allow that kind of negativity in your beingness. You control that. You stop that. You want to keep yourself pure and open and free. So through your daily lives, watch what you're doing. Be the giver. Shift your perspective from being the effect to the cause. Because that's what you are. And that's what you're learning. It's stripping those things away from you, and that's what you're going to be experiencing, especially under this tutelage. It's going to strip you. Let it strip you. If you've got emotion, let it go. If you've been hurt in the past, let it go. Cause and effect. You're here now, and consciousness cannot be hurt, killed, or destroyed. These things, maybe. But who cares? You're just using this. You're just getting your car in shape so you can drive around a little faster, maybe. Drive a little farther. And it doesn't pull you down in ravishing pain. You've been aligned and taught to align with the negative forces. Now you're opening up and being aligned to the positive forces. And this class particularly is full of a lot of beings that have already succeeded in tapping that. You're just now in your final journey of awakening. Don't do anything to mess that up. Keep yourself free at all times. Keep yourself as the light giver. Work yourself from the top down. Don't see yourself as a struggling Homo sapien looking and wanting God in their lives. You already come from that source. You be that source. Because if you don't, you will always keep yourself in a limited perspective of yourself. When you sit and you're the golden key of it all. That doorway, though, to get there can be a lonely doorway. You can be ripped of mates, loved ones, parents. Your attachments will be your karmic experiences. You have to let go of your attachments. If you don't, they'll strangle you. They'll tie you to this plane or to the astral plane or to the mental worlds. It doesn't matter. Don't take things personally because you're one of endless individual expressions. However, you, the core, It's the same as my core and the same as each and every one of us' core. Just because we're in different forms and have different levels of consciousness to us. That's why you don't want to identify with things like that. Don't identify with yourself as a female. Don't identify yourself as a male. In consciousness, you will start losing that perspective. You're not a gendered being. You're playing gender in creation. And that makes it kind of fun, you know. Sometimes when you get deep into the alone state, you realize how fun it is to have friends, even though you meet everyone in the now. Those that have that will understand what I'm talking about the realization of why creation exists. And it's massive. You're in just one little speck here. This is nothing. This is just a little rock spinning through space, and that's illusionary in itself. That's gone in the blink of an eye. You're never gone in a blink of an eye because you are eternal. You, not the physical body, you. That awareness behind that that's listening to me now. I do like question and answers in spirituality. Because for me, life is simple. You must become that which you want to experience. If you want to experience the all, you must become the all. How the hell do you do that? You don't identify which that is limited. You don't identify with it. You step back and allow things to work. We're too busy creating. Now you've done that. Now you sit back and let the divine hand come in and work it all out for you so you can leave this place free and bring others with you that are ready. Many are not ready. That's okay. Some are just ready to go to the next level, of course. But we have to instill some higher levels to this plane, in my opinion. It's just how I see it, and some of my friends. Use the masters and the spiritual beings to work with you, but never put them between you and God. The old ways of spirituality, in Buddhist and Hinduism, and using a divine being or a master by guru to be your intermediary between the God state and you. And I always thought, they're only way showers. And that's all they're supposed to be here for. Some masters get themselves in trouble too by that. They're only here to be way showers. I've walked this path. This is what you might happen if you walk down that road. If you fall into a hole, I'll come lift you up. But I'm not going to walk the walk for you. You are the divine yourself. And anyone that thinks you have to use someone else to find yourself is ridiculous. A true master will be only there to assist you and guide you and give you assistance and maybe some information, but you've got to ride this journey. You've already been riding it for so long. You wouldn't even be in this room if you could not accept some of these levels of understanding. God doesn't put itself to that. You'll be out there playing because you're not ready. You're still dancing to the tune of creation, which is okay. But you can dance to the tune of creation and be free while doing it. Any of you ever see The Circle of Iron? I've talked about that movie. It was written by Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee understood, believe it or not, these levels. He wasn't into the higher planes, but he was into the lower planes. And he hired David Carradine, Kung Fu man, to play the master. It was done under the orifice of martial arts, but it was the journey, and you had to combat to see who would win to make the journey, because the journey was a scary journey. Your life, many never made it on this journey. The seeker trying to understand God. So the whole movie was going through these different planes and the experiences they gave him as he fought his way to get the book. The book. It was the Shariat Ki Sugmad in Ekankar. Some of these words and writings, of course, are very old Sanskrit. So this Chela fought his way up to the God state. And when he got there, he wanted to fight the entity that was responsible for that area. And he says, do we fight now? And he goes, fight? You've made it. Here's the book. So he took him over to the book. And as he opened the book and viewing the pages, a laugh came from him deep within, and a nirvana came to him deep within. And each page was nothing but a mirror. Nothing but a mirror. So he went back, met up with his master, and they both danced in the moonlight to the joy of awakening. And that's the way it is with you guys. You're simply experiencing yourself and the all. Realize you're the master. You're the one that's gained all these experiences. All of you beautiful souls here, you've gained lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of experience. That's why you're awake at this level. You can understand these words. So you just go out and become more awake and be the way shower. Don't get in somebody's way. Who cares? Who cares if they listen to you or not? You have your sukha. You don't need anything else. You want to get to that position where you need nothing. You have all things. Yeah, you got to put some clothes on. You got to wash the body once in a while, I guess, and feed the damn thing. But don't get caught up in it. Keep yourself free and enjoy yourself. Change your perspective from the little Homo sapien to the spiritual giant, the knower, those that have journeyed for lifetimes after lifetimes and now are ready to give forth the awareness that they have. Each of you have great awarenesses. I see it on a lot of levels. Fun stuff. But don't let anything control you or anyone control you or set in on you. If you're a watcher at the threshold of the universe, in other words, the threshold of your consciousness, you're the observer, the watcher, you will see your thoughts coming in. You will see entities trying to get in. You will see a lot more than when you're lost in chains of thought. To me, chains of thought is your prisoner, is your chains that bind you. You can be a high thinker or a low thinker. You're still a thinker. You know? It's kind of like that. Oh, he's a physicist, and he's in, I never focus on his name too much. Like to get him out of the chair. But he's the universe guy that, yeah. And there was a show on him, and of course, he's extreme intellectual. So his whole thing with the universe and how the Big Bang and the atoms and all this, there is no God. That was his conclusion. Sometimes you have to take yourself all the way down to a non-believer to become a believer. Sometimes you have to shed all that you think you know. That's part of the problem, that you think you know. you know. The mind is an incredible subtle thing. Once it gets a little idea of consciousness, it can fake it for you. You can start working on higher thoughts, but they're still thoughts. So enjoy yourselves, you know, down here or out here, however you wish to look at it. But remember who you are and where you come from. Be the divine. All right, let's do some Q&A. It's always nice to do that, I think. A lot of times we don't open to that, but I like that. It allows me to help you individually, you know. Sure, we do need a mic on this one. I'm not going to get up.
Dr. Morse, check the testing.
You'll get it.
Testing 1, 2. How do I determine the difference between the cow, the negative force, and God's direction in my life?
You know, this is the point of stepping back into consciousness, into that point of observation. And when you do, you will see the energies of the two. If you realize that positive and negative are the opposite sides of the same coin, that the negative forces is here for your growth just as much as the positive forces. You know, I'm always at battle with those, but then there's no battle. It's just the way it is for those that walk with light. They are always in. But that's the nature of it. You can't walk through the world of chemistry without it coming back on you. Both sides. So, like I said earlier, some people view the negative side as the positive side and the positive side as the negative side, you know. Just depends which side of the fence. What does that action, what does that thought, where does it lead to? What does it do for you? Because your most negative experiences is also why you're here. It's matured you. If you keep looking at your negative experiences as negative, you're the loser. Because they're really positive in that way. They're to free you. Those that have entities, is to develop your strength. You must become strong. This universe is serious. And it will seriously house you here for quite some time. So you just need to become strong. The stronger you are, the more godly you are. It's not a strength that you can define. It's a strength you get from becoming more self and less the victim. There's no victims. This is cause and effect. And those that are holding on to old experiences, playing the victim, you've got a ball and chain around your neck. Let it go. Become God itself. Become the light and sound itself. Become the hue. You can feel it move through you, but wouldn't you rather be it? Be the power itself. Be the rolling hue as you walk out into mankind and give them a helping hand. This planet is starving. Starving. It needs your helping hand. Okay.
When you talk about non-attached compassion, I've been trying that on the last several days and wanted to hear from you, especially in the sense of stepping back into consciousness, what tools and things that you can do in a present moment with a client in front of you. I feel myself leap out, and so would love to hear you talk about that.
It's hard not to energetically merge with this the person, because as you become more conscious, that's what you do, is merge. I hug you guys, I'm merging with you. Notice? Mm-hmm. So, detached compassion keeps you free. Compassion does not. Compassion is a desire, a move to help. It is a view of seeing someone that has in harm's way or is in trouble or is whatever. In reality, everyone takes themselves down that road. In reality, detached compassion is simply the love of the divine for itself. So when you have a client, notice that that's the divine that forgot they were the divine. They are lost in their journey. They've accepted others and their opinions. And like we have so much myths on this planet and propaganda and bull crap, it's amazing. And yet you're not a part of any of this. This is just for your journey and your experience and your growth and your awakening. But also, in my opinion, and others who work in these fields, is the expansion of creation. Even though it's all in the awe and you think you can't expand, watch it. It's amazing, as you guys become the creative dreamers, you can create worlds and worlds and worlds within yourself and become the conscious entity of your creation.
Can you please maybe to give a tools how to accelerate the growth and bring the light, wisdom, knowledge, like in everybody and me purposely, just how to get the stuff deeper, or just what to open up just to be able to receive all the stuff. Thank you.
Start right now. Start right now by listening from the now. Mostly you do. It's like getting off an airplane. Let's say that you went to the magical land of Egypt. And there wasn't so much war. It was a magical land. You've heard so much about it, and you've never been. So the minute you get off the airplane and you open the door, you're in an extreme state of the now. You're in a state of observation. And then the mind kicks in. And the mind starts relating everything it's seeing to what's experienced in the past. It starts categorizing. If you can keep that eternal position of awake, where you're the observer, you're the watcher, and keep working with that, you're not going to be at 24 hours a day because it's too intense. So that's okay. But the more you work with that, and the more you pull back, and the more, even when you talk to someone, you watch and observe, then you'll begin to see their auras. You'll begin to see their thoughts. I used to walk up and down the beach just to work in that position. I think I told you that. A beautiful girl walks by with a thong or something. Of course, back when I was on the beach, there wasn't too many thongs. That was kind of later on. So I wouldn't let my mind engage. I kept working on it, and I kept observing to see if I could see, because we all carry our consciousness around with us. All these states of consciousness we align with. And for those that watch, they can see. So I was working on that. And it's just, I've worked on it all my life. It's how we all have to do that. We all have to work on, unfortunately, being the very thing we already are. But that's how slick these bodies are that you're using. It's hard to sometimes know when the mind is engaged itself. It's so subtle. Or the ego engages itself. But watch that ego. Because no one in this room, including myself, is above another. We're just different positions of becoming awake. That's all it is. And you can't judge someone else, because the next thing you know, you might find yourself there again. And you don't need to do that. This room is full of beings that don't need to do that anymore. You just need to wake up to your divinity. Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
How you doing?
Excellent.
I was wondering about, do you have a event in your life that you can remember where you feel like you went through, because I feel like we all kind of have experiences that we remember that like put us on our journey. And do you have like maybe the one that you remember the most, like to be the turning point of your life into where the synchronicity presented itself, maybe on a more intense level? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure. What might that be? It's hard to define that because they put me through quite a bit for a while. So, trying to think which one ripped me the most. Can't remember. You know, I can't remember which one ripped me the most. Because as soon as I saw Twitchell, I knew. It was just I knew I was already here to do this. Everything just came in, boom, 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 boom. The most scariest, I suppose, is when they took me to this prison. And I just still don't know where it was. I think it was in the astral world. It could have been somewhere in the causal, but that was a life-changing experience because it was, I could feel it through my whole essence. The freedom was sucked out of those that have to spend time there. And even though we're dealing in embodiments, I can still feel that. So those that I suppose that really wreak havoc on a lot of souls' lives probably spend time there. I don't know, but it is frightening beyond belief. And so I kind of walk better. I watch what I do. I try not to hurt others or be involved in that, you know, because some of these things we have to pay back and go for isn't worth it. My opinion. But all in the process of awakening. You have to put it all in that. And that sort of thing. My most dramatic experiences was learning that I could be a traveler out of body. And all the worlds that happened with that. I really didn't have any bad experiences that way. It's been an opening journey for me. Just, I remember. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wherever it is. I'm
Here,
sorry.
Dr. Morse. Dr. Morse, over here.
Oh.
On your left.
Oh.
Thank you so much for this divine, enlightening session of spirituality. Very much appreciated. So I have a question about attachment that you spoke about earlier.
About what?
Attachment. Not so much with a client or a patient or what have you, but how about children? I have two. My little one is actually very gifted, and I'm very attached to him. Like, he tells me that, you know, he's 600 years old, not 10, and that I was once a man, and he knows that, stuff like that. So I'm very, very connected and attached with him. What do you have to say about connection to, let's say, a being that you helped create, at least in the physical form, of course?
Well, you know, they put these souls in these bodies that you guys bring here, and it just fits their experience perfectly. So know that you're more of an awakened one. You will bring more of an awakened ones to this planet. The bodies they're coming into are a mess, and that's why we're fixing them. But you're bringing in, a lot of you guys, some high beings, and you're going to find these children are not going to follow the same academic journey that everyone else is. They don't do well in school. They're bored. They're much more advanced. Academics has to drastically change on this planet. It in and of itself is part of the problem. It's part of what locks souls into the intellectualism, into the mental worlds. So you have to be careful with that. So you're going to see your children as being little warriors. And the more you get them raw, the more their divinity, the more their power, the more their awareness is going to come out. And you're going to have spiritual beings of all levels. I mean, I see it already. The things that come out of 3 and 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 7-year-olds, it's like Lauren that wrote me. Remember I told you that? Quite astute awareness for such a young embodiment. But don't let the young embodiment fool you. These souls are ready to take off or here to help, one of the two. You're either bringing a soul in to end their journey for the last lifetime, or they're here to help, one of the two, or a combination of both. And realize that. For you mothers that are conceiving, get within and contact the entity, the soul that's moving into that body you're producing, and communicate with them. I knew a lot of women that did that all the time. They knew exactly why the soul was there. I'm just coining that word. But that entity was there and using your body. Why? What's your children? Why do they pick you? Who is that child? Not the body. Who is that child? And what are they here for? That's the cool part of being a mom. Work on the higher worlds. Do it at night when everyone's sleeping, and shut down their physical world. You start working in their astral and mental worlds. You know you can work with your friends away from the physical. I help a lot of you here and there. All the beings, all the masters do. You know, life is more involved in these higher worlds than they are here. Well, it's a cool thing, you know, to be a mother and to produce an embodiment. And then you have this being that can use that to express themselves on this plane. It would be real cool if you knew who that being was and why it's here. We tend to look at these little bodies as little bitty bodies. That's because man keeps looking at this level. You got to shift your perspective, or you'll be the leaf blowing in the wind. You'll be the effect, always seeking the God that you think exists. And I've always said, the seeker of God never finds God. He becomes the eternal seeker, jumping from one level to another level, all the while being God itself, lost in the divine illusion. There's so many great stories about the masters and stuff. There's so many great things out there. Open up to these spiritual beings and let them help you. Fubi Quantz. You get him to work with you, you're something. If he was doing this lecture, he'd just be sitting here smiling, looking at you. Nothing to say. I attended a lecture once in this temple where if you wanted to understand a book, you merged in the light of the book, and the light filled you with the knowledge of the book. And so I was attending a talk at that, and this was a temple where this book was nothing but light on this pedestal, just a big light. And he came, sat down, who knows how long it was, got up and walked out. And it's like, I get it. And one day he said to me, he said, you know, my dear one, he said, if you stop thinking and stop talking, there's nothing you won't know. I get it. If you stop thinking and stop talking, there's nothing you won't know. You must realize the mind isn't the seat of knowingness. It's the seat of knowledge. Awareness, consciousness is what you are. And once you shift and understand that and work with more of that, you can only touch that as the observer. In creation, when you invoke thought, you are now in creation now. Your attention is now into the mind and riding those mental waves, right? And when you invoke the emotions, those are waves of energy. And you surf those waves of emotions. In reality, there's no emotions in consciousness. There's no thought in consciousness. All of those things exist within it. Very difficult to define it because we're trying to define it from an intellectual point of view, and there's no way. Can't define the infinite. Can only be it. And in meditations, when you find yourself starting to expand, just relax more and more and more. Let yourself go. Ask for your spiritual guide to help you then. Walk with you, show you what you need to know for your journey of awakening. Because if you're not the awakened one, then you're the follower. I got a nice little bumper sticker in my desk drawer that says, if you're not lead dog, the view's always the same. If you're not lead dog, the view is always the same. You ever watch Alaska programs? Okay. So, you must be the leader. And you already are. If you play the role of the follower, you're just playing the role. And maybe that's a role that you need to play. But if you want the higher consciousness and all that that implies, you must be it. And walk with that. As you walk through the multitude, you walk with knowingness, you walk with light. The giver of consciousness, the giver of awareness, the giver of truth. It's a fun thing. Okay, if we have any more questions?
Yes.
Ah, my man.
Dr.
Two?
Morse, what do you say?
2 questions?
Actually 3.
Good.
But you already answered one. You already answered one by answering her question, so
Thank you.
it's 2. So first I'd like to say it's an honor to receive those jewels from you today. And it's a blessing to see you. It's a blessing to see you in your high priest mode today.
I need a drink.
So the first question is about followership, because they always tell us to be leaders, or everybody wants to be a leader, but in my opinion, it takes followership, proper followership, to become a great leader. So I'd like to know your take on that, because it's not talked about so much.
Sure.
The science of being a good follower. And the second question is concerning genetics and spirituality, because science tells us that we have 99% of our DNA that is junk. And I wanted to know if, in my opinion, that junk is probably our spiritual insights, or our spiritual gifts, or our guardian angels watching over us. And 1% is what we see. So 99% is what we don't see. So we're much more than what we just see. So I wanted to know what your take is on that 99% junk. And there's a new field in genetics, epigenetics, that starts to dismantle a lot of those false scientific beliefs. So I wanted to know what your take is on this subject.
All right. You know, we were talking medically, and the MF gene, you know. When you're looking, even when we look at scientific data and all this, you're looking at humans and their journey to try to understand what already exists. You're talking about consciousness versus some genetic passing of cells. And that's not a world you need to live in. Who cares? You know, each level has its own consciousness, their own little states of consciousness. You don't want to be wrapped up in that. Who cares? You have to accept yourself as a being far, far from this world. of a being that is unlimited in nature. Doesn't go through any genetic tree. In the cell genetics, that's just for your physical body. Don't let that consciousness wrap you. You are here to, you can fix your genetics if you like. Thanks. You can fix your genetics if you want. But why worry about that? Pull yourself into consciousness and it'll all move your body as it is. And when you leave, it'll crash, let me tell you. Your consciousness will support your body in ways that you can't believe. Even for those that are full of pain and weaknesses. I had a good friend, very spiritual. Every time he gets rid of his car, it falls apart. It's so powerful that he wears it out. It supports, it runs, and then as soon as he gets out of it and lives it away, it falls apart. Life will support your consciousness. But I would not think one way or another about genetics, only in that we're dealing in the physical and that sort of thing. If you're referring to the other bodies in genetics, I don't pay much attention with that because I don't see that. We're dealing more in light rays or frequencies of magnetics, and we're more into states of consciousness. And even at the cell level and the nano levels, these are all states of consciousness. You want consciousness, not these little states of. You can enjoin any state of consciousness you want. I wanted to know what it was like to be at plants and animals, and so back I went. They showed me. I think I've talked to some of you about that before. Be careful what you ask for. You're at this level for a reason. Going back into, I don't want to use the word lower, that's not appropriate, but still, lower states of consciousness is extremely limiting to the level you've worked yourself up to be aware of. So you have to be careful with that. But I wouldn't let my mind engage in any of that kind of thinking, my dear one. Be the light, be the sound. Blow genetics as you will. What was your first question? I forgot. I live in the now. I can't go back. I don't want to engage my mind. Do you want me to engage my mind? No. What was it? I forgot.
Fellowship.
Well, you know what? We have all concepts of leadership. The id is a driver, of course, of your world and drives you into different levels where you can, this is just all different levels of everything, from leaders to followers to all kinds of things. When you awaken, you're neither one. You're the light giver of God. You're a God man. You're not an earth man. You're a God man, being woman or man. Because as you awaken, you cease to identify with your gender. You simply just are. You might be using a female or a male body. Okay, have fun with it. Don't get wrapped up in it. A lot of these people get wrapped up in it. They want to be the female or they want to be the male. Why don't you want to be the God man? But they're not ready. They're still playing in the fields of dreams. And this is the field of dreams. Remember I said you cannot imagine anything that does not exist. As scary as that might be. You feel somewhat secure. I wouldn't. You're in a warring universe here, and there's a lot of them. And then there's a lot of divine places to be as well. You have the good, the bad, and you know what. But nothing can hurt you when you work from that eternal now, when you work from consciousness. Doesn't matter what happens to your body, but you're protected more. If you want protection, shift back into consciousness where your mind isn't being played by others. There's always someone stronger mentally. A lot of psychics out there, a lot of channelers. Don't you ever channel. That's when you pick up the hitchhikers. I knew a gentleman that could work like a Ouija. But to see him in action was amazing. And the entity involved with him was amazing. And it told him, he says, you do not do anything but this. You keep yourself focused right into this channeling. He didn't. He started to open up to automatic writing and everything else. So I'm sitting in a house of a gentleman that we almost saved him, but except for the biopsy that the surgeon finally talked him back into, and then we couldn't save him anymore. And very bad case of cancer here. And a bunch of us were out visiting him. And I had this gentleman with me. And this gentleman was talking to my significant other in another room, and they were talking spirituality, and I was talking to man with cancer, but everybody was talking, but I was listening. Be a listener. And he said something she disagreed with. She said, no, that's not how it is. And I turned and looked, and the eyes got red, and this reptilian face came right out and started to attack her. I saw the golden light surround her. Ask her about it today, how scary that was for her. You must understand, this is a universe heavily traveled by all levels. I was talking to someone about Mount Washington, out in Washington, where a lot of them come into. They come in all over. But there's all levels of those. We're not alone by any stretch. You're never alone. And yet, you're always alone. Do you get the difference? There's no one but you ever. And when you get into that alone state, that's where it all is. When I was growing up, I had to go where the darkness was. I had to stretch that open. I had to see what was behind the darkness. I had to see what was deep within the alone state. When I read Twitchell's book, one of his books said that alone exists. And boy, I went whoosh. And it's that pull deep within you to that state of aloneness. That's why I say, find yourself a place where you can be with just yourself. No one else with you. Get into that alone state. Not the physical, not the mental, not the emotional, deep within the alone state. That's the state of individuality, the state of the one. It is the I am. Remember that old saying? Is it I think, therefore I am? Remember we were talking about that? Or is it I am, therefore I think? It's I am, therefore I think. The mind is not the supreme being. It's only your tool to use while you're here. It would like you to think it's a supreme being. And it will tell you it's a supreme being. But it is an illusion that it lives by. The mental worlds are the toughest. But you guys are up for the job. All right. Anyone else?
Dr. Morse,
Yes.
over here.
Oh, hi.
Hey. I love you, and I'm so grateful to be here with you and everyone.
You. Isn't it fun?
It's amazing.
I love it.
Amazing. My question, I have so many questions around this topic, but my question is around death, so-called death. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering what your understanding is when we leave the body. You know, I've witnessed many people leave, and it feels like it's such a beautiful portal. But at the same time, you know, you hear about the Tibetan philosophy, you're going to go be in the bardo, you're going to be tempted, you know, there's just all these different things. So I'm just wondering, what is the highest, most conscious way to walk when we walk out of these bodies?
Keep working on your awareness of the now. Keep working on your pure consciousness. And that's where you will be when you translate. You bring up a good point. You will be that which that you've created. If you create all kinds of activity and karma here that you haven't paid for, you will swing back to pay for it. Some of you are doing that now. Get it done. Get out. And I'm not saying that to just get out of this world. This world is always going to have inhabitants, but you got to realize this really isn't a real world. It's wavering between ionization. It's wavering between positive and negative. It can be swept away in a blink of an eye. This is just the theater. This is just the movie for you. It's the place to have the movie. And the movie isn't even real. The only thing real in all of this is you, each and every one of you. And when I take each and every one of you and I merge it, you're talking to the divine. So, never be afraid to leave the physical. It's how you leave it. Sometimes, some people leave it in a lot of pain. We've seen some deaths, of course, in our world because there are many souls that come to us that are it's their time to leave. Whatever you can depart to that being, so when it leaves, it understands more. It'll be very helpful. Because they're only leaving their physical body. They're not leaving their emotions and they're not leaving their mind. They still have those bodies. When you leave here, you'll still have those bodies unless you're more awake. That's why I say get as awake as you can. Some of you are so young, there's a lot of work to do here. We're just now getting this big thing to start to turn. So you've got some stuff to do here. Good stuff, because the experience on this planet can be immensely cool. Man doesn't choose that right now. He's still wallowing in these lower levels of war and judgment. And yet, God, through those who will listen, has been saying, don't judge. But no one listens. Until you get ready to want to get out of here, and then you want to pull back. Doesn't matter anymore, does it? If you have babies, these aren't babies, only little bodies. You could have one gigantic spiritual being in that little body. Let me tell you, and I see it all the time. These little 5-year-olds write me. These are giant beings. And the mom and dad is letting them watch our videos, and I always try to infuse consciousness in there. Infuse that in your works. So you're ringing the bell of that individual. Remember who you are? Remember? No. It's about time you do. And you will only remember when you quit identifying with the movie, with the drama, the dharma. This is just the field of dreams, as we've said. Who's the player on this field? That's what you want to be. And your transition from one level to another. When Dr. Jensen left, and I think I've told many that he was trained in crystal healing. He was taken out of the body nightly and trained. And he told me I didn't know what to do with it here. And I told him, I said, Doc, it's not for here. I didn't want to tell him he was translating. But then we got a psychic for him, for his wife here, because she liked those sort of things. And in her conversation with him, he said, it's just like walking across the street, honey. So never fear that sort of thing. What you want to fear is limiting yourself, creating a lot of karma for yourself that you'll have to pay back. Because this is cause and effect, and it's very real. Like I said, I don't know any spiritual beings is above that. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Morse.
Hi, honey.
I am so grateful for you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
fun, hasn't it?
It's been amazing.
This has been a good seminar, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's because of you guys. I'm always here. It's because of you guys we had a great seminar. My love to you. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm so grateful that you persevered and you stayed strong in who you are and what you
Thanks.
know, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I would like, in my mind, I operate from this illusion that that I operate from my heart, and I realize that more and more now that I have these barriers around my heart, and I get a lot of information downloaded, and it's overwhelming to me at times, and I would like to hear your thoughts about where I can operate more from a heart center.
All right, so I'm going to pull that over to a question this lady said about attachment and emotions. You must be careful when you work from the heart that it's not an emotional heart, that it's a heart of strength, that it is a heart of awareness, that it's a heart of consciousness. Then the divine love will emanate from you without thought, without desire. It naturally emanates from you because you are that now. You are the source of all things, and you're understanding that more. You've opened up all your mind and your emotions to your consciousness to bring this force through. That's the true heart. Heart in spirituality is not meant to be emotions. That's man's interpretation. It's meant to mean consciousness. True love is pure consciousness. And it's so overwhelming and nirvanic. It's intense. We only hook the word love because there's no other word we can tie to something so nirvanic, something that brings so much ecstasy and joy to a being. But it's unique. Try being just always consciousness. And we've never talked from the yellow up. But that is when you keep being more and more. Those are worlds of beingness, not activity. Some of us have our places there. You can create anything you want. You can create anything you want. But these are levels of beingness, more and more deep within the all. But you can only go so far, as I've said, with the body. I thought I could maybe go a little further. I was expanding one time so much, and more and more and more and more. I wanted the top of the mountain. I wanted to become awake of myself at that level. And I kept saying, you don't stop, you won't stop. And you got to finish this, can't stop. And finally I tried to stop myself. Finally I stopped myself. But it's that easy to want to go home. I use that word, but that sort of thing. But love is simply consciousness expressing itself in however way you wish to do that. But if you want to give love to others, it's a trap. Be very careful with that. It'll bind you to the object of your desire. If you desire to give love, that's a trap, my dear. Be love, and it'll bring to you that which needs your love. You don't have to go out and seek to give it. Okay? And be careful with that, because when you slip down into personal love, that's where the attachments come, even for your children. And unfortunately, a lot of mothers and fathers are getting their children ripped from them, from a very perverse modality. And so, you know, we're here to put a big stop on that, and it is essential that we do it in the way that we're doing it. It's important that we do it with awareness and truth. That's why we have all of these lovely people with us. Why we have you guys. We're not just fanatics. We're here to set the thing to truth. We're here to show this world the truth of where you guys got off. You can't continue this same world of destruction, or you will be destroyed. I can just tell you. So that's why we're all here, to help turn this around. It's just like a school refining its ability to teach, so to speak. Any more questions?
We love you and appreciate you, Dr. Morse. Can you hear me?
We're over here.
Yeah. We love you. Thank you.
Love
So
you
are
too.
you married?
I'm not.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is because I find that as we do become awake, and it is a lonely, not a lonely, but you're alone on your journey, that you had mentioned significant others, and I see
I do
people
have one.
divorced a lot, and I see a lot of
Actually,
difficulty in finding mates.
Yeah. You know, I live with my ex-wife. We were married and divorced twice. So I live in the back in an RV where I have my peace. But, you know, marriage is a contract, of course, and I just hate contracts. But I've only had one divine one that I spent time with on the female side that was someone that's like-minded. And that was so nirvanic I couldn't even express it. And they had sent her to me because I was in a little bit of a low. But these experiences can trap you too. So sometimes if you feel like all your experiences are just making you pull to yourself, they are. It's difficult when you ride with someone that doesn't follow your focus, and particularly in the diet. My diet has been so radical up and down because of that. Or you create conflict, you know? Yes, we finished that question?
Yes. Yeah. I
Oh.
think that it's hard to find like-minded to share your journey with.
Very difficult. Very difficult. And I don't know what to say about that. You know, you're always going to find those that you need to finish up with. So you finish up with them. My second wife was that way. We were married only 2 or 3 years, and we just realized we weren't growing or anything together. We just weren't growing. We were just hanging. And I needed to grow. I needed to open. It wasn't a negative thing. You know, there's so many people fight over these relationships. And it's like, why? If you don't get along, you're not suited for one another, change. There's plenty of souls out there. But you have to be careful not let the other individual tie you down, lock you down in a way. I've always had my own space, even with my marriages. So I was in a big, I'll just say it was a big house in Switzerland. And I was being wined and dined by Shania Twain and Mud at that time. And she says, come here. So I followed her, and their mansion was on a hill overlooking the lake and everything. And she says, come here. They were very spiritual. Mud and Eileen, that's her real name, were Radhaswamis. And Radhaswami is the Shabda Yoga group. Shabda Yoga is a yoga of light and sound. When you have a teaching that professes the light, then you have a teaching of the lower worlds. When you have a teaching that professes of the light and sound, they're at least to the Satnam or soul or the yellow position. I'm more in harmony with those people. She says, come here. So I followed her down a path, down the hill, and she had had a bungalow built into the side of the mountain, and that's where she had her alone space. We all have to find our place to have aloneness. It's how you connect, as intense as that may be. So we all inside of ourselves have that, you know. And when it pulls on you and calls you, you're ready. It's time. Let yourself go. Okay?
Dr. Morris, over here.
Oh, where are we? I see.
I just want to thank you for all the work that you and your team have been doing. It's just so awesome. I'm having a blissful time, and I don't want to leave, but I guess I have to.
I love you, honey.
Well, my question is, what are your thoughts on guided meditation?
Well, be careful with the guide. Just be careful with the guide. Be careful who you open up to. If you're visiting a psychic or a channel, be careful. Be careful. Because some of these people are more powerful than they know. And if they like you, they could sit with you for a while, follow you home. So be careful with that. You know, it's easy to have a being set in your space and you not even know it. And there's a lot of beings that lose their bodies rather quickly, don't know what, they're kind of stuck in limbo, and there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of adhesions out there, unfortunately. But, you know, it's about gaining strength and watching. Be the watcher on that threshold of your awareness to where you don't let just anything in. Matter of fact, if you work from the position of all of the now, there's no place to get in because there is no other room. You're the total of consciousness. You're in the God state, or at least the beginning of it. Yeah, Emily.
I love you.
Love you, my dear one.
I wanted to respond to the relationship question because I went through my journey alone, and I never had anyone around me that was following my spiritual or my eating plan, so to speak. And I found that was very essential to my journey. It was very essential to my awakening, to my growth, because the strength is always in your alone state. So if you're searching for someone, or even thinking that you need someone around you to do what you do or to support your journey, you have not gotten to the place where you have totally embodied your own responsibility or seen your own inner strength. Because that strength only comes, the way I see it, from when you are in the alone state. That's what people ask me, but Hilda, it's not simple, that's hard. And I'm like, it was never about simple.
Yeah.
It was never, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
It's about strength, you know, and about you, only you.
Sure. You know, you can have relationships of all levels, and you don't have to let the level of the individual you're with affect your level, not judging, but understanding. It's okay. You know, I've spun with a couple souls for a while, and just because they weren't in my level of awareness, I don't judge, I don't care. Who cares? You know? If you want to know, then we can teach you. Yeah, do or not do. Mm-hmm. Well, that's how doing without doing, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're at the point of no activity. You're at the point of consciousness. There's no activity in consciousness. There's no duality. There's no movement. It just is. Very difficult to define something that's omnipresent and omniscient and omnipotent that has movement or activity to it, because it's a total. It's a sum total of all things. It is in all places at all times. all powerful, all conscious. Very difficult. You have to understand what that means. It's not an embodied being with a big long white beard and a cane walking down from the sky. Pomp and stance. I'm the God of all gods, that sort of thing. No. These are games people play. And it plays a lot of games, I'll tell you that. All right.
Hello, everybody. So I just want to share a little bit of my story and how I found you. 9 years ago, I lost a baby on March 20th. That was Good Friday, so not such a good Friday. And then a year later, I met my now husband, whose birthday is March 20th. And then March 20th of this year, I found your first video. And your first video, you had said to the audience, if you're looking for your ticket out of here, which I had been praying and using those exact words. So I was like, oh my gosh, this guy. And then I started my first 24-hour Morse marathon. Who can relate to 24? Yeah. And within those first few videos, you mentioned healing spinal cord injuries. And my dad was a quad my whole life, and he said loud and clear on his deathbed, Emmy, in your lifetime, they're going to cure this. And so I feel so blessed, and just the gratitude, it's overwhelming, and just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, I love you.
The signs are everywhere.
Ain't it? Yeah. It truly is. What is our time right now?
We are at 12:30, so if you want
All right.
to take
So
a...
you know what? From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, and my staff was so great. Thank you.